Hey guys, welcome back to Wheelin' with Wally. Today I've got a fun little video for you, and that's the install of this simple tailgate table from Hook Road. So this tailgate table says it's made for TJs, but since the tailgate changed on the later model TJs, I think the 04 to 06s, like mine, changed slightly. This is going to require some modification. I'm going to show you that modification in the video. Now it's going to be a pretty simple modification. I just have to drill a couple holes and lower the mounting hardware. Not a big deal. So this tailgate table comes with the hardware needed to mount it. It comes with the bolts and the rib nuts that you're going to use to mount it. And then it also comes with a drill that's the correct size to drill for the rib nuts. So you will have to drill 4 holes in your tailgate to do this. So to install this, you're going to need 2 tools that aren't provided. One's a drill so you can drill the holes, and the second is a rivet tool. And I've got this one here. It's an Astro brand I bought off of Amazon. It comes with a whole little assortment, but the main thing you're going to need is the tool. So I'll drop a link down in the description for this. And let's go ahead and get into this video. So real quick, I'll show you why it won't work, how it comes, and why we need to modify it. Right here, you have the 2 rib nuts that go through. So if you look where they sit on here, it's right on this vent, and you're right on the edge of both of them. So if you get one up to an area you can drill the hole, the other one sits like in the vent, and that's not going to work to set this in there. So what I'm going to do is simply drill this hole lower and move it down, and that should give me enough room to fit it down here and clear the vent, while the other one up top also clears the vent. So just a couple other pieces of information real quick. They do include a template on where to drill the holes for the factory locations on there. So we're not really going to need this because I'm going to change those. So I'm going to set that off to the side. And then another piece of information for you, for the rivet nut tool, you need a 6mm, I believe it's called a mandrel. That's the piece that will actually screw into the rivet nut and allow you to crimp it down. And if you're going to buy this, that is included with the kit I have. So if your Jeep is like mine, the first thing we're going to need to do for this install is to remove this arm that pivots. And that is just 2 little bolts on the side here. So I'm going to go ahead and take these out real quick, and then that'll give us room to drill the hole in the lower position. We can't drill it attached because the actual table blocks getting a drill in there, and you'll have to have it off to actually do the rib nut tool after this too. If you're mounting it normal, you don't need to do any of this, so you can skip ahead. So now with this arm piece off, I'm just going to take it and set it over the vent. And then I'm going to make sure the top hole is high enough that it's not in any of these openings. And I'm going to look at it and come down to the bottom and mark a good spot that is far enough down that it also won't be in the way. There we go. So now I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing with the other side. So now I'm just going to take a center punch. This is a self-tapping center punch. And I'm just going to mark the center of my hole. So center punching, putting that little divot there, will hold my drill bit in place, so it'll keep it from drifting way off the mark. So now I just have to do the other one real quick. So now I'm going to drill those holes out with a 17/64 drill bit. Now I'm going to drill it out on the other one. So now that I've drilled holes, I've got fresh bare metal on here. So I'm going to take some steel it and just paint the holes real quick. So I went ahead and put these arms back on here real quick. Just use the bottom screw. That way I could have them the appropriate distance apart. And I'm going to set it up here and mark the top hole. And then I'll take the arms back off so I can mark the bottom hole because it's blocked by the actual tailgate here, or the tailgate table. So I have to kind of just move it back and forth real quick. So I've got my holes marked here. This one looks a pinch higher to me, so I might just bump that up a hair, make it a little more level. I was going to actually stick a level on it, but my Jeep's not on level ground. My driveway is not totally level, so not the best place to do it, but I'll get it level enough that I'm not going to have a totally full glass of water sitting on it and have to worry about it spilling because it's not totally level. And then when I'm off-roading or at camp, the ground's never going to be totally level anyway, so I just want it, just good enough. So off camera, I was kind of holding the tailgate table here, and I decided to kind of use this as a line to line up the table a little bit better. So the bottom of the tailgate table is totally flat, and then this is a nice straight line. So I lined it up with that to get it fairly even. So I slightly adjusted my holes, and then I pulled this arm back off. So I'm going to line it up with this top hole, and then I'm going to mark the bottom one. So now that that's marked, I know where these holes go, and then I'll do the same thing with this side, and then we can drill the holes into the tailgate. All right, guys, I'm going to cut this into the video. Full disclosure, I did have to re-drill and move this. I wasn't thinking because I had my top down, but the tailgate bar that goes across there for soft tops, I had this just, man, it was maybe not even 3/16 of an inch too high. It was just barely hitting the kind of seal across there, and I didn't want to tear that seal up over time. I could still close it, but it was kind of rubbing pretty bad. So I re-drilled and lowered this some. So not a big deal, but that's something to think about when you're installing this. I just didn't think about it because my top was totally down. So just keep it below this kind of little curve in the tailgate, that little stamped area, and you're good. So same thing as before I drill these, I'm going to center punch the holes. So in typical GoPro fashion, my GoPro decided to freeze up and it stopped recording video, but it recorded sound. So this last section I didn't catch on camera. So just to talk you through it real quick, after I center punched the holes I marked, I took a small drill bit and I drilled a pilot hole, and then I took the supplied drill bit and drilled it out to the larger correct size to fit the riv nut in there. And then I did that for the top two. I put the arms back on the tailgate table, and then I held it up here again and made sure the bottom holes were going to line up, which they did. So then I drilled out the next two, and then I took some paint and sprayed it on the holes because that's now bare metal, and I wanted to get paint on there before I set the riv nut in there to keep it from rusting. Another bad thing about GoPros is they hate low light, and it's gotten dark out, so I'm just going to finish this video up tomorrow in the daylight. That way you guys can see what I'm doing. Alright guys, it's the next day now. The paint is dried, so now we can go ahead and get those rib nuts in there. And to do that, I'm going to put in the M6 nose piece and mandrel into my tool. So once you have your tool set up, take the rivet nut that they provided, screw it on to the end. Make sure to have the tool spread apart, and run it all the way down. And then it's as simple as sticking it in there and squeezing the gun together. So I'm going to start over here. And it's set in there, and I'm just going to unscrew the tool. All right, now I'm going to grab the next one and do it. So now that I have all the rivet nuts in, I just have to take those arms off my tailgate table one more time, screw them onto here, and then I can reattach the actual table part to the arms, and we'll be done. So here is the left arm. At the top is where the screw with the bumper will go. The bottom is just a regular screw, and that's in that extra hole we drilled. So I'm going to stick this through real quick. I'm going to start with the bottom. No particular reason. Just had that screw in my hand. So that's threading in really well. I'll leave that kind of loose. Grab the one with the bumper on it. Stick it through the top hole. Thread this guy in. Snug it down. And we'll go back to the bottom and snug that one down. Another thing with these rivet nuts is you don't want to try and tighten the bolt like crazy tight, because it can then break loose that friction and bite it has on the metal and start to spin, and then that's a pain. You'll have to cut it off. And now here's the arm for the right side. I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the other one. Just start with the bottom one, get that screw started, leave it kind of loose, and then I'll move on to the top one. All right, and now I'm going to grab the actual table section and reattach it. Okay, so I'm going to stick one screw through down here with the spacer. I'm going to hang the table on it, and then with it kind of stuck on there, I'm going to use the latches up here to keep it in place while I put the other screw in. Go ahead and stick the nut on this. So this one's going to be a little more difficult to wedge the spacer in here, especially since my screw holes were apparently a pinch off. Use a screwdriver to kind of wedge these apart, so hopefully I can fit this in there. There we go. Okay. Okay. And now I'm just going to start tightening these down. I'll get those decently snug, but they have kind of nylon lock nuts on them, so you don't have to go too crazy with them. Tighten this side down. So now I can lower this down and move on to reattaching the cables. Take my last two little screws here. There's that one. Grab the other screw and do the other side, and then I can tighten them down. All right, tighten these down real quick. It is cold out in Ohio still. This coming week, it's going to be in like the 70s and 80s, but right now it's still like 40 something out. I'm excited for the warm weather, ready to get back outside, get more stuff done on the Jeep, do some more trails. All right, so there's the table pretty much done. I'm going to stick these rubber stoppers back up in here. It's a little cushion for when you close it. There we go. Make sure everything closes. So actually, that's probably why these were shipped kind of loose, is so it can swivel on there for closing and opening. So I'm going to just loosen this a little bit to let the cable swivel. There we go. There, now it tucks really good. Then you got your clasps up here. Well, that one locks good. This one's floppy. Because it's not lined up. I was hitting that the wrong way. Tweak that a little bit and see if I can get this to lock like it's supposed to. Oh, there we go. All right, just a tap of the hammer. Good enough. All right, guys, so that's going to complete the install for the Hook Road tailgate table. If you like this install, I've got another Hook Road video I did where I installed that molly panel in between the driver and passenger seats up there. That also required a little bit of modification to fit, but it was well worth it in my opinion. I also want to mention to you guys that I have another trip planned now. It's confirmed. I've got stuff booked out to Colorado and Moab. It's going to be a 2-week trip. It's going to be like 17 days total or something like that. It's going to be awesome. I'm very excited for that. I'm going to have all kinds of really good footage for you guys coming up. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop me a like and a comment. I'll see you guys on the next one.